Kit, so great to meet you. My goodness, I was so riveted by this film. I honestly, I don't even know where to start with it, but congratulations. I thought you did such an extraordinary job.
Oh, thank you so much.
And it was a tough one to watch, like no kidding. I can't imagine how tough it was to make it.
Yeah, it was its own war itself.
Tell me a little bit about that because you not only took on the star, you wrote,
Mhm.
you produced. I mean, you were right in there. Why was it so important to be so involved with this one?
Well, um, our director, my director, Sam Gonzalez, was a war veteran who was diagnosed with PTSD.
Right.
So, he really had this vision for the film, and I just felt, and he became a close friend of mine, and so I felt a duty in a way to kind of tell the story as best as I could.
Hmm.
And um, we did some intense research and felt like this was a message and a cause that we really needed to expose.
Right. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about the research because exactly. I mean, you're not dealing with something that's not real. This is very, very real, sadly.
Right, right.
And even though Sam was there as a reference and a huge help, I'm sure. I can't imagine, the responsibility you feel, not only just as an actor, as a producer,
Yeah,
as a writer, because veterans, people even who experience PTSD, even if they're not veterans, this is a really important film for them to watch. So, what was that process like for you?
that's it. Well, so I'm a Canadian from a small town. So what do I know about the Vietnam War or
Yeah,
serving, in war and all that stuff?
yeah,
So it was really key for me to get a deep understanding of it. And it's funny because I think I talked to a lot of vets and spent time with a lot of vets and have a lot of vets as friends and so on. But I think it was Sam had this idea, and he essentially said, I'm going to drop you off at the Veterans Hospital and talk to some vets and learn from their experience.
hmm,
But okay, I mean that's an opportunity to kind of learn. And very shortly after him doing that, I was approached by security and pretty much asked to leave, and
really?
realized that it was a big no-no because
Wow.
a lot of vets are, particularly Vietnam veterans, are poached essentially, and people like to expose their pain, and so people can't just wander in there and just sort of ask them about those things. They're very
Makes
difficult
sense. Yeah.
experiences and questions to ask. So it actually was a doctor who took me in and essentially said, "All right, I see that you're actually good intentioned, and you didn't
Hmm.
understand that this was a big no-no. So sit down, kid. Let me fill you in." And she essentially, walked me through, the experience of veterans, what it was like during their time, um, the civil strife that was going on, the conflict, and this is, her doing this for 20, 30 years and just imparting me. She sat me down for, I think, a good 6 or 7 hours. I mean, it was an entire
Wow.
day in her office. And it was like, sun up to sundown. I just walked out with this like barrel full of knowledge. And went, wow, this is,
Amazing.
yeah, thank you. It's really,
Wow. That I'm very impressed with that because that's, it's showing. I mean, you guys obviously are taking this very, very seriously. And, what really struck me, especially with your character, like, there's three buddies, they've grown up together, they've done everything together, and then when one of them gets drafted, like I was saying, the, the three words you don't ever want to hear come out of your son, your brother, anyone's mouth is, "I got drafted."
right.
And and so you as your character, as a friend, feels, that's it, I'm going with him, and then the other friend decides, that's a tough situation for a
Yeah.
friend to, like, when you did your research or when you were writing in the story,
Mhm.
were there people who, like, do these guys just jump in because they don't really know what to expect, or
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And Sam, sort of emphasized that because he served and he was very young, and there's that mentality behind the adventure of it, the
sure,
excitement of it. and not the reality of it. And that there's this, big sort of shift that happens when you really experience war, and what that does to a person and the soul. And essentially, that's what the movie we wanted to make was about
Yeah.
that experience.
Amazing. Did you guys do any kind of like boot camp or anything to kind of get into the, war mode and know what that, well, I mean, you're not going to know what it feels like, but
Sure.
just to kind of get an idea how to hold a gun, just that kind of stuff.
It's funny you say that. We did. We it's another situation where a bunch of us were dropped off in the woods and we're told to survive.
See ya.
They give us they
Yeah.
give us limited gear and build a shelter and just sort of survive the night. We had to do this thing called fire watch, which is where someone's always staying awake at
Right.
night.
Yeah.
And you take these different turns, and then it rained
Oh.
heavily, and I remember this one funny night, an animal of some sort encroached on our tent, and we were also learning, like you said, the poses and
Yes.
the positions. So we had some sergeants and a captain kind of walk us through some of the formations and tactics and things like that. And it was funny because this animal encroached on our tent in the middle of the night, and you're in the middle of the woods, it's pitch black, and there's something large sort of crackling towards you, and we just sort of freaked out and panicked, thinking we grabbed our shovels and jumped in formation,
Yeah.
the habit.
Oh, good God. I would have been freaked out too, for sure. No question about it. Oh, yikes. No kidding. It's so interesting to watch your character Mike's journey, especially when he comes home. I don't want to give away too much in the interview because I want people to watch this and see where he goes. But you give statistics throughout the film too, and they're staggering. Like they're staggering. When I was taking notes. Like 549,000 soldiers in 1969 went to Vietnam, and then you look at the numbers of 24 million Americans will experience PTSD. I'm sure there's a huge number in Canada too. And then how many of them come back? And as with your character, you don't get a hero's welcome. You're not given money. You're not, a lot of them are homeless, left out on the streets. I mean, that's just devastating. Devastating.
It was an interesting choice to choose this time period because today the conversation of PTSD is a little different because we have a term, PTSD.
Right.
Back then there wasn't that term. So when there was battle fatigue and shell shock and these other terms, but PTSD as a disorder wasn't known or wasn't talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these soldiers who essentially did their duty for the country, and in a lot of cases, like in our film, were drafted for the first time, right? So it wasn't necessary. It wasn't even that they volunteered or had to. They had to serve their country. And they came back, and during this really tumultuous time, it was civil strife. It was a lot of conflict, and so a lot of them came back to people spitting on them, treating them badly, calling them baby killers, and all these horrible things. It was a horrible, unpopular war, of course.
Yes.
And for good reason. But the soldier's story is essentially what we're telling here, which is someone does their duty, they come back, and it's like they're riddled with trauma, with guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and PTSD, and so a lot of them turn to drugs or alcohol or whatever,
crime, whatever, yeah,
to cope and survive. And so we thought this is sort of, because it was about the 80s. It was after Vietnam that PTSD became a term and became recognized, and so I think that's the reason why we chose this time to tell it.
Yeah,
and to make it relevant today, about the issues.
Absolutely. And as I was saying to you earlier, you star, you act, you wrote, and you produce. So what ultimately was the biggest challenge for you out of those tasks?
That's a good question. I think producing is probably going to be the toughest one. Yeah. I think so, just because it's a fight making an independent film, and
absolutely,
you're sort of taking a hill against a lot of obstacles and odds, and that's beyond sort of the challenges of nailing sort of the voice and writing and telling the story in a way that that we think is effective, and then of course, you know, encompassing, embodying this character and these circumstances.
Yeah. So how does working on something like this change you as a person?
This was an education for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that for me, this film taught me so much. So, you know, it's that expression, like you learn a house by building it. I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
what this was. Yeah. So I think that's what this was for me.
Yeah.
Really
What
learning about that, and it's my first starring role as
I
well.
know. Yeah.
So it was, you know, it was a big lesson to, like, you know, every moment, you know, you have to be on it, you know, and it was, I mean, it was awesome too. Super exciting. So I'm thrilled to, you know, do it and get it out there and see where this goes.
Yeah, well, like I said, I thought you did an extraordinary job, especially with all the hats you were wearing. So kudos to you for that. So at the end of the day, you know, even if veterans or people who have PTSD watch this film, what are you hoping that they'll get from it, or, you know, take from it?
So what our hope is that what we do with this film is we further the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and or at least engage in the conversation, particularly for vets or people with PTSD. It is their story, so it's to let them know that they're not alone.
Right.
And I think that's the key, and that's the message by the end of the film, is to share that, to say that, like, this is, we understand you, you know, that we feel for you. There's compassion, there's empathy here, and we want to help shine a light on that.
Yeah, and there's help out there. There's help.
And there's help, exactly. There's help and hope.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a process. So, but
it's there.
there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now what's next for you? Are you working on anything now, or something else in the, I know with pandemic, it's hard to be doing stuff right now, but in terms of, you know, what's on the horizon?
It's funny you say that. I was doing this romantic horror film in Mexico.
Wait, did you just say romantic horror film?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll see how that
Love
works.
with a zombie? I don't know. Like.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and well, so we were on hiatus, and then we were slated to go back into production this summer, but
Okay.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
things are not, particularly down there, are not great. So that's
I know.
that's on hold. And then, ironically, there's another horror movie that is slated to shoot in New York by the end of the year. So if that happens, then I'll be going up there to shoot this horror movie called Night Creep.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We love horror movies. Nice and juicy. They're so good. Well, listen, it's real pleasure for me to meet with you on Zoom and talk to you today. And best of luck with with the film. I really hope it gets. I'm going to get it out there for you. And fingers crossed. And hopefully, we'll talk for that romantic horror film. I'm very intrigued.
Yes, that'd be exciting. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Have a good night, and stay safe and stay healthy, my friend, okay?
Thank you. Same to you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.